And welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. And if you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Hey, listen, you might notice something different about me. I'm not holding, if you're watching the video, I'm not holding the microphone anymore. This is amazing. I am so ecstatic in not holding this microphone anymore. I spent what would seem as too long realizing that a stand that I've owned for the past, Christmas, that I've, for the past 4 years. So C Plus Comedy has been going on for 5 years now. I've owned a mic stand for 4 years because I used to shoot news time with a shotgun mic. I used to like sit over on top. Like if you ever hear me, if I ever seem far away from the mic in the early news times, it's because I had a shotgun mic and not the lavalier that I have now. And I would record, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the waveforms and they're not appearing on Audition right now. I've been having a lot of issue with Audition for the past couple of weeks, which is really, really damning. So anyway, can I say that on this podcast? It's a clean podcast. Whatever, I'll say it. It doesn't matter. No one's watching or listening anyway. I've seen the numbers. So anyway, I've had this mic stand for 4 years now. And then ever since I got the Lav, I've only used it maybe like 2 or 3 times since I stopped using the shotgun mic, which I've also used only like 2 or 3 more times since then too. So Tuesday I'm sitting there, I'm recording the application, which is the other podcast that lives on C Plus Comedy, which is if you haven't listened to it, that's a podcast. That's a daily podcast, 5 days a week. Monday through Friday, I basically talk to WABE, which is Atlanta's NPR station, and I asked them for a job. So I was sitting there and I was doing it, and I was just hunched over my desk and I was recording the podcast with this Blue Yeti Pro. This is the expensive version, guys. The Blue Yeti Pro. And it was on it, and every mic that you buy, every good expensive mic you buy comes with its own stand, and so it's sitting on its own stand. And that's the thing I've been holding for the past 79 episodes of this show. And I finally I said, you know what, I want to buy a stand. I can't afford a stand, so I said I'm going to buy a stand. But then I was like, oh wait a minute, I have this microphone stand. I wonder what it does. So I'm not what it does. I wonder if it can fit my mic. So I'm sitting there Googling for an hour after I've recorded this podcast. And then I don't know the real name of this mic stand, but then I go like microphone stand for cardioid mic, stuff like that. And then eventually I land on boom mic stand, which is what this is. And turns out that people use this with their Yetis all the time. And I go, what? And do I need anything special for it? So I spend another like 10, 15 minutes trying to see if there's I have to buy a special thread bearing for it or something like that. Turns out I don't. I can just twist it right into where the microphone holder goes. And I've been doing this podcast for a year and a half. I've owned these things. I've owned this microphone for 2 years. I've owned this boom mic stand for 4 years. This is stupid that I just now figured that out. I am so mad at myself. This is so dumb. But now here we are with me using the microphone, finally able to do the things I want to do. And now we're going to record. And I have my free hands. I look cool and everything. Isn't that neat? And that was a 4-minute story. So we're going to move on. There's not really much to talk about that I want to talk about. I've doing the application podcast. I've learned a lot about myself. I can ramble for about 20 minutes and then I'm gassed. I got nothing else going on. But also, like I said, I think mentioning this last week is that it's hard to do 2 podcasts, especially 2 in one day. I can do, and especially doing a daily podcast where there is the only conceit is, I want this job at this place. Please let me get this job. And also I learned today, if you don't listen to the application, I'll run over this quickly, which I pray you do. Please subscribe, at least subscribe to the application. I've seen the numbers and they're bad. Actually, no, they're actually way better than what this show is doing, which is, well, I think it's because I put more episodes out. But anyway, but I think it's hard to talk for a very long time about nothing, and I have to come up with ideas every single day. And I've got an email this morning basically that said, "Hey, it's gonna take a while for us to look over candidates for the job." So now I'm going to be doing the application for at least 2 more weeks. So that's going to be fun. So I'm going to be doing it basically until this is October right now. I'll basically be doing it until like Thanksgiving, which sucks. That's more than 2 more weeks, but still, that sucks. So hopefully they hire before Thanksgiving, and hopefully they hire me. They will hire me. But like I said, nothing much has been going on. I just hanging out, just doing stuff. So I saw A Star Is Born. Wonderful film. Great, wonderful film. It's been made 4 times, and I had no idea what the story. I knew what the story was. I had no idea what the ending was, and boy, that really put me in a slump. That put me in such a dour mood. I wanted everything to be a-okay. If you haven't seen A Star Is Born, essentially it's old rocker and young starlet. They basically he helps her. And then they meet in the middle, and then her fame skyrockets. His fame continues on a downward slide. He can't handle it, and then you can infer what happens from that. It was great. It's a wonderful movie. It's oddly funny, very funny. Also, I saw it at night, and I know I've said this before, and I've done it a couple times since, mostly because of the people I'm with. I don't want to see another movie at night with people in the audience. I don't understand why you have to talk. It doesn't make sense to me why somebody has to talk during a movie. I don't need you I don't need you whispering to your old friends. I don't need you making little jokes. I get it. It's a 2 and some change movie. Just sit down and lose yourself in the story, because you're taking me out of the story by just whispering. Oh yes. Oh, what did he say? Oh, I'm making a snide little comment. Two men behind me whispering to each other the entire time. Y'all take it out. Take that mess out in the back. Go. Let me enjoy this film. Anyway, but yeah, it's a great film. Lady Gaga was just so. I've been saying Lady Gaga all weekend long. I've been saying Lady Gaga as a joke because that's the way Jimmy Pardo says it, and I've just been saying that, and so I've been saying, and so yeah, I finally said it real today. But she is just she gave a tour de force performance in that. Like, I have not seen her act that well since the Simpsons episode. As if I'm comparing those two. No, she really did a wonderful, fantastic job. I guarantee this is going. I just saw it's an article that said Bohemian Rhapsody and A Star Is Born aren't going to be contending at the Golden Globes as musicals, which is odd to me. I don't know. I mean, maybe dramas, but A Star Is Born really had, while it didn't have traditional musical moments like, The Greatest Showman, but it did have those times where it was very clear, hey, we're going to sing a 3-minute song now. So you're going to sit down, you're going to enjoy it. I actually hope you're sitting when you're watching this already. Sam Elliott was wonderful. Chappelle was good. You get a appearance from, oh crap, I forgot his name. You get a little appearance from Eddie Griffin. Eddie Griffin was in the movie, and he shows up for maybe 10 seconds. And I think one of the big issues is with somebody like a Chappelle or an Eddie Griffin is that when they pop up, people are laughing instantly. And I'm thinking, no, guys, this is a sad part. I mean, Eddie Griffin obviously it didn't come up at a sad part if you saw the movie, but I'm thinking, no, this is a sad part. You shouldn't just I would hate to be. I know when, like, if a Will Ferrell pops up or a John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly does a lot of, it's Steve Carell. I'm gonna use him as an example. People keep asking him for a reboot of The Office, and he's like, "No, we're done. We're done with this." Or a comeback tour of The Office, and all that guy wants to do is basically dramas. Will Ferrell, I'm sure he's tired of popping up and people just instantly laughing. I mean, I understand you're associating comedy with those people, but that would just be a shame to just pop up and somebody's like at you. Oh man, it's a wonderful movie. That was Andrew Dice Clay. Oh, cool, he did a good job. Everybody did a fantastic job. Anthony Ramos, Sam Elliott. There was one part in the movie where so Bradley Cooper's character is a singer songwriter, and he has this voice that sounds a lot like Sam Elliott, and then Sam Elliott pops up, and then Sam Elliott sounds like Sam Elliott, and you're like, if you let it bother you, then it'll kind of affect you. But Pop Culture Happy Hour, they mentioned the panelists on that episode of the Star Is Born episode of Pop Culture Happy Hour mentioned that Sam Elliott and Bradley Cooper thing, but then later on in the film there was one part where Sam Elliott goes, "Why'd you steal my voice?" And Bradley Cooper goes, "Because you weren't using it." And everybody's sphincters just tightened up, like, ooh, just in the movie theater, just, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that. He was right though. It was good. They did one thing in this movie that I thought would never see. They had SNL, but like as a background, which was really interesting to me. Like just to have like the whole studio and audience, an actual like Alec Baldwin there hosting an episode of SNL, and the whole backdrop of the SNL. The stage and everything, Studio 8H, I believe. And then they also had the Grammys, which was really interesting. Like you mentioned, like they can mention all the time. You can say, "Hey, we're gonna go to the Emmys in this TV show," and they never show the Emmys. Well, obviously, because the Emmys has their own thing where you can't show the Emmy statue on the TV show unless it has the ability to be edited out a year after the air date, which is insane. But like they never say like, "Oh, we're gonna go to Golden Globes or go to the Oscars because of all this stuff." Crazy. Anyway, but yeah, it's great. Like, and the Emmys scene was just so hard to watch. It was so tough to watch, but I really enjoyed it. Moving on, I have on my list this week Manifest and The First, and I had that on the list last week. Did not watch those. The fall TV season is back, and I'm actually kind of busy, but not with work, with personal stuff, which is great, but also blows because I need money. Just plain and simple. I'm going to say I need money. Big Mouth is back. A wonderful show on Netflix. I'm taking it down. It's a cartoon show with kids going through puberty, and it's dirty. It's great. It's wonderful. Nick Kroll, Andrew Goldberg, Mark Levin, and Jennifer Flackett all created it. And it stars Nick and John Mulaney. It stars Nick as like 17 characters, and then John Mulaney as one. There's a few more. But the cast, everybody returns full force. Everybody's so funny in this show. I knew that was Gina Rodriguez's new Gina character. David Thewlis, Gina Rodriguez, they joined the cast. Wonderful. Jesse Klein, Jason Mantzoukas, Jenny Slate, Fred Armisen, and Maya Rudolph are all fantastic. I love those people so much. They're all so good at what they do. It's a very funny show, very well written, so many good tight jokes, and it's given that they had a year to do it and then they put out all the episodes at once. Everything is just so snappy, and I would say I was gonna say perfect, but not. But it's definitely, this is Nick Kroll's Family Guy, wherein that he plays all these characters. He does and it's the early seasons of Family Guy when Seth was still a part of the show and not frolicking through the world with the billions of dollars he has. But it's a very funny show. And I hope everybody's watching it. I hope teens learn from it. There's a Planned Parenthood episode that took me by surprise, much like the BoJack Horseman episode, where it's just him giving a long monologue. Where like you get in that the last season of BoJack Horseman, I think season 5, had an episode where his mom died, and you get in maybe about 4 minutes in, and you start going, oh, this is just going to be all Will Arnett by himself, and it's just going to be, I can see the script. It's just a paragraph. It just says BoJack. Go, some action lines, talk for that long. But the Planned Parenthood episode, right after I watched it, a bunch of articles came out about it. So I watched like Sunday, I think, and the articles started coming out, and it was basically just a long episode of Planned Parenthood and all that stuff, and taught you what Planned Parenthood does, and it was funny, it's interesting. I liked it a lot. I think that's a very fine show. But yeah, definitely check it out. It's a very funny show, great cast, great supporting cast, very tight, very funny. I enjoyed it. Stop saying that stuff. Okay. So right now, because I have this microphone on a stand now, we're going to take a break. All right. There's not going to be an ad or anything. Actually, I might have something to read, but we're going to take a break, come back. And in the next half of the show, we'll talk about some other stuff. Okay. Thanks for listening. Let's go to break, chat. All right. I got something to read. I just realized that. Okay. So listen up, guys. There's a new thing coming out this Friday. In a couple of days, we've got if you know comedians, and I know comedians. There's a guy named Ryan Singer. He has a new album coming out. It's his fourth album called Free Love. On October 12th, they're releasing the Ryan Singer's new album, Free Love. It's a comedic love letter to the world, reminding people that they are allowed to believe, and in fact, it is more fun to do so. This is the fourth album of Singer, like I've already said, and he said it's basically time to start sharing the love. So the album is going to be free. All right, you can download it to your iPads. You can listen to it on all the other things, your phone, your laptop. This is the latest offering, is Singer's attempt to wedge some fun, whimsy, and love into a world that has grown increasingly dark and divisive. So, in that way, it bucks the traditional trend that comedy must come from pain. Singer is anything but traditional and believes that great comedy can come from joy and love. The material contained within his comedic universe is evidence that covering everything from the joys of growing older to believing in Bigfoot and the coming singularity. For him, one thing is certain. It's more fun to believe. Ryan's a funny guy. I already have I have a copy. No, I don't. Never mind. I don't. But I've heard a few snippets of it, and it's definitely one thing to look out for. It's very nice that he's even doing this. You should definitely check it out because I know I'm checking it out. I've heard a couple of tracks. Definitely be on the lookout for this one. He's a definitely funny guy. Check it out. Ryan Singer, Free Love. This is the podcast. I got one more thing to read. The Lewis Black and Kathleen Magadan. Lewis Black and Kathleen Escape from America is out on October 23rd on Audible. It's an Audible original. It clips from their roads and live shows and stuff, and lots of moving to Canada because U.S. is so bad right now, jokes and stuff like that. And there you go. And then there's also another Audible original coming out, Wham City Comedy, Reverse Transmission. The stars of the ARG cult world have a new Audible original long form audio warping comedy and horror into a perplexing mystery about a car gone wrong. From the creators of the psychological horror comedy video, This House Has People in It, that originally aired on Adult Swim. You can check it out on Audible Originals. Coming soon. Both of them. All right, let's get on with the rest of the episode. So now I have one thing I want to talk about is Conan had his last hour-long show. And it was last week, it was last Thursday, and it was very bittersweet because they're not wrapping up a series, obviously, but they're wrapping up a style of comedy that he's been doing for 26 years. That's, oh my gosh. It's great that he's able to do that, especially on TBS. But now next year, starting in January, they're going to be going to half hours. I think I've mentioned this before. And I didn't know that this was going to be his last show. I thought he was going to finish out October at least, but they're going on tour and they're coming to Conan and Dion Cole and Laurie Kilmartin. I think Andre Dubrichet, people I've spoken to, no big deal. They're all going to be coming. They're all going to be coming to Atlanta. They're going to be going on tour, I think, just around the United States. And they're coming to Atlanta, so I will hopefully be going to that. Sadly, I will be missing, just a little side note, I'll be missing Throwing Shade. I don't have enough money for a ticket. And yeah, it sucks, but I'm going to be missing Throwing Shade. They're coming to Atlanta this Friday. It blows. If they're coming, I don't know, next Friday, it'd been great. It'd have been wonderful. I'd have had some money to throw on that, but it sucks. I wanted to see it. They're going to be at the Loft. So if you want to check that out, if you're in Atlanta and you want to see them tour, they're also still touring. They're going to be in Florida on Saturday, and I think Sunday's in Nashville. Boy, oh boy, wouldn't it be great to drive to Nashville just to see them? And also, speaking of Nashville, I'm not going to be able to see, oh God, what is her name? Courtney Barnett. She's going to be in Nashville on October 25th. And I just don't think I'm going to be able to make it for that one. I have a wedding like the following weekend. That's actually in Nashville. So I'll be going up on that Friday, hopefully. Hopefully I'll have a date. I don't want to go alone. I hate going alone to these weddings. Anyway, so Conan had his last hour-long show. And in in the final week, you wouldn't have known it was the final week of hour-longs. They just basically had, I think, it was just a bunch of people that they've had on before. Conor McGregor did a satellite remote interview, and it was just a regular week of shows. And then Thursday, Conan said that Jimmy Vivino and the Basic Cable Band, the guys that he's been with for the past 26 years, they're not coming with him to the half hour, and they played two sets. And Conan got to play with the last song with them. But yeah, it sucks that they're not going to be able to come along with them. And it sucks because, Conan I've often said this, he's the funniest person in late night, but he's also too funny to be, to compete with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other people in late night. It's mind blowing that, he was doing all this crazy stuff even before on network TV. But then when he got to TBS, admittedly, it was a little bit more pulled back, with the exception of, every once in a while there'd be a Nut Spoon type thing. And Nut Spoon is my favorite thing that I've watched Conan for years. That's my favorite thing that they've ever done on that show. Nut Spoon is so stupid. It's pure insanity. I love it. But then you have things like Masturbating Bear and all the other gags and stuff like that. And, I'm excited that he's going to be trying these new things. And especially, in a culture that people are fighting for views on the internet rather than views on television. And so hopefully I hope that it's not a weekly show. I hope it's a daily show. I hope it's still a half-hour daily show and they're just pumping out episodes after episodes. And they can definitely do it. But the thing about it is they can do it. But when TBS tried that with Pete Holmes' show, the Pete Holmes Show, it didn't fare well for Pete. But the show did. It was a fine show. They were doing half hours. He was doing like a stand-up monologue every night, a stand-up style monologue every night. And he was interviewing basically his friends, and they have a lot of good sketches that came from that. And like a lot of stuff that's doing well on the internet today, even still, it's amazing. So I'm excited to see what Conan does next. Hopefully he's not just relegated to remotes after remotes. Like you don't want him to be Anthony Bourdain just traveling around all the time, because that would stink. I hope they still keep the studio. I hope they do some in studio bits and stuff like that. I know he said they're not interviewing famous people anymore, but come on. You can't always have Gal Gadot teaching you how to fight like Wonder Woman. Like that's going to be tiring. So hopefully he can sit down, because he's one of the few that can sit down with somebody and not look at his card and just let the person go. Like he can let a Bill Burr go, but if a Bill Burr was on the Colbert or whatever Late Show, then he's kind of pulled back there, because that's a bigger audience, but also B, I don't want to say less tolerant audience, but they are less tolerant for his bullcrap. But yeah, so now the only people left in late night doing hour longs. So Sam B, Trevor Noah, and Conan are going to be doing half hours, and the only people doing hour longs are Jimmy, Seth, Jimmy, Fallon, Kimmel, Seth, Corden, and Colbert. All white guys. So let's keep that in mind. But out of them, I think I've mentioned this before. Seth Meyers. Actually, no, I mentioned this on the application. I did an episode about my favorite late night hosts and what we can pull from them for podcasts. If you didn't know, the application is a podcast where I basically, no, I'm done talking about that. But I think, I said Seth and Conan were people that you want to try to model after, because they are able to like again, Seth is able to keep it on track. Even I think Seth's able to keep it on track. Conan can let it go off the rails, but still let it be a conversation, and they're both unique to that. Whereas, for somebody else, and I don't want to try to take him down, but Colbert, he's following the cards and he's regimented and he's still got to follow the CBS brass. But because he still has to fight for the views. I think Kimmel's really good at interviewing people. He's really, really good. And Corden, he's all right. It's I don't know. He's good at off the cuff stuff. And he's a good actor. He's a great singer, but an interviewer, he's not. He's probably be a good presenter. That's what they call hosts over there in England. I've never seen him do something besides. I mean, I don't think I even. What do you do? The Tonys and the Grammys? I don't know. I didn't watch that stuff. Let's see who else. Moving on. Oh, Fallon. Fallon's good. I think he's a good host. He's very affable. I don't think he's fake. He's fake laughing or anything. I think that's just him being a genuinely stupid, lovable golden retriever. He's a cool guy. I really do like him a lot. But Conan and Seth are just the best doing it right now. And Conan's actually the best doing it right now. But I'm going to miss him doing the hour-longs, and it's going to suck. Now that he's going to be gone until, he's gone for the rest of the month. He started a podcast, and I believe, let's see, what is it called? The podcast is, I have my podcast app up right here. It is called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. I'm already subscribed to it. It's a team up with Team Coco and Earwolf. So they teamed up. I have no idea when it starts. I can only assume it starts in October, which is next week or something like that. So, or this week, maybe, I don't know. I'll talk to you when it starts, but I hope it's going to be good. I want to see this show prosper. I want to see Conan prosper. I love him so much. Like, I know it's not right to idolize people, but I do look up to like Conan. I'm going to tell this story because I thought I was going to tell it on Conan, but I'll never be able to tell it on Conan now. But when I was younger, I started watching these late night shows. It was like everybody, there was so many, like, at the time, when did I start watching? I was probably watching in elementary school or something like that, or middle school, something like that. Yeah, it had to be middle school. I started watching in middle school. So that's like around 2004, 2005. And so, we had Letterman, Leno, Conan, and Kimmel and Ferguson. And so Jon Stewart and Colbert and that was it. And so we had those, the cavalcade of white guys and Conan as well. I don't know if I said, but we had all those people, and it was a good show. Everybody was funny, have all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But then I started watching, a bunch of shows, like, a bunch of half-hour comedies, like Andy Richter Controls the Universe and Andy Barker PI. And I was watching those shows, and Andy Richter, they both were canceled. Andy Richter Controls the Universe. It stars Andy Richter as a cartoon version, not a cartoon, he's not a cartoon, but a version of himself that works in an office. And it's a very funny show. I think it's on Amazon. Definitely check it out. But this is the early days of YouTube. So I didn't have a DVR. And there wasn't on demand then, or on demand wasn't as fleshed out as it was back in 2004. And so I would watch, like, at the start of YouTube, it was unregulated. But clips could only go up to 3 or 5 minutes long, something like that. So you could watch TV shows on there, people uploaded in like 240p, and they were all in 5 parts. They're like Andy Richter Controls Universe, episode 1, part 5. And you just watch it, and and that's how I'd watch stuff like that. And, so I started watching that show, and I watched it a lot. And then I watched Andy Barker PI. I watched those shows so many times through. And then I was like, what does Andy Richter do? Go to Wikipedia. Andy Richter is a sidekick on Conan O'Brien, on the Conan O'Brien show. So I watched Conan O'Brien. I was like, oh, that guy. And the only reason I knew Conan O'Brien was because he wrote for The Simpsons. And of course, I'm a huge Simpsons fan. I've seen every episode. I watch it constantly. Like today, I'll probably watch like 2 or 3 episodes before I go to bed, which is what I usually do every single night. No matter what, every single night I watch an episode before I go to bed. And then So I started watching that show, and I thought Conan's a very funny guy, falling through all the turmoil on TBS, on NBC, then the move to TBS, watched the documentary that he made of his last tour so many times. And so Conan and Andy really shaped how my comedy my comedy personality was. I don't know who that was. guy who hates giving out compliments. But he really shaped who my comedy personality was. But yeah, definitely. I love Conan. I love Andy so much, and it's going to be great to see them come back. Hopefully Andy stays with the show. And you can't keep the band, but keep Andy. That'd be great. And also that studio, because I know they just got the studio this year. But that's it. So that's all we have for this episode of the Constitutionals. Hey, if you like what you heard here, or saw if you watched the video, why don't you head on over to cpluscomedy.com, where there's a new interview coming out. I got a new interview with Brian Babylon of NPR fame. It's very short. I'm just sick of doing email interviews. You can also check out the Application Podcast, which is a podcast where I beg WABE for a position at the company. They have a new podcast producing position, and I'm making a daily podcast asking them to join that show, to join whatever. I want the job. Listen to it. It's a great show, and I really do put a lot of effort into it. So hopefully, subscribe, tweet at them. Do whatever you can to get them to get me that job. Also check out News Time over there on youtube.com/C+comedy. Where you can also watch video version of the show. News Time is a great show, weekly show I do every single week. It's like Last Week Tonight, but less funny. That's what I use on the application when I describe the show. And continue being yourselves, because I appreciate it and I love you. Thank you so much for listening. Okay. Bye.